Gopi Jana Vallabha Girirāja Hari Jaya. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girirāja Hari Jaya. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasoda Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasoda Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girirāja Hari Jaya. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girirāja Hari Jaya. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasoda Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamuna Yamunatiravanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nitago Haribo, 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 Nitago Haribo, Nitago. Nitai go Haribo, 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 Nitago Haribo, Nitago Hari. Jayam Vishnupa Paramahansa Parivrikaracharya Stutasrasi Srimati A.C. Bhaktivedanta Samisla Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupa Paramahansa Parivrikaracharya Stutasrasi Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. ISKCON Founder Acharya Prabhupada Ki. Nama Acharya Haridas Thakur Ki. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्यामकुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मायापुर धाम की द्वारका धाम की जगन्नाथ धाम की गंगा मैया यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की सिंताय गुरचंद की श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की हरिनाम संकीर्तन की Shara Shamasundaki, Nitaya Goprimanande. All glory to the same devotees, all glory to the same devotees, all glory to the same devotees, all glories to the Lotus Feet of Sri Guru Gauranga. Agyana Timenda Shagana Gana Salakaya Chaksu Sumritan Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobishta Stapita Yena Bhutale Sayarupa Kadama Yena Dati Sampedantikan Bandeha Sri Guru Padakamalan Sri Guru Vaishnamaschan Sri Rupam Sakayata Sahagana Raghunatha Vitantan Sajivan Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Satan Sri Krishna Chaitanya Deva Sri Radha Krishna Padasahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhavitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Banchaka Patrubhyascha Kripa Sindhibe Vacha Patitana Papana Vebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Pima Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gora Sri Namam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Ananda Lila Maya Vigrayo Himabada Vichave Sundarayo Tasma Maha Primrasa Pradayo Chitanya Chandrayo Namana Mastate. So I thank everyone for being here this evening for the Bhagavad Gita class, the nightly class, our Srimad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is the song of God, song spoken by the Supreme Guru, Lord Sri Krishna, Krishna Bande Jagat Guru. So it's very sweet, nectarian words from the Lord that's spoken to his dear devotee, Sri Arjuna. And of course, Arjuna does not need to hear Bhagavad Gita because he's a devotee. And it's not an ordinary devotee. Krishna said, Bhakto Shime Shaka Chaiti. You are my friend and also my devotee. So Arjuna was not an ordinary devotee, an ordinary person. But for the sake of giving the conditioned soul, people of this age, for the sake of giving them enlightenment, so that they can be free from this ocean of materialistic existence, samsara. So the Lord chose Arjuna, which is their devotee, and Arjuna apparently confused of his duty, and then he said, okay, now Lord Krishna, you are the Supreme Guru. Now I want to be your disciple. So instruct me. And then Lord Krishna began to instruct Arjuna Bhagavad Gita. So today, the chapter 8 and text number 3, Attaining the Supreme. So the text is there for the board. So we can read together, and then I will read the translation and purports, and then give some deliberation. Śrī-bhagavān uvāca, akṣaram brahma paramam, svabhāvo dhyātma ucyate, bhūta-bhāvodbhava-karo, visargaḥ karma-saṁjñitaḥ, akṣaram brahma paramam, svabhāvaḥ ucyate, bhūta-bhāvodbhava-karo, visargaḥ karma-saṁjñitaḥ, akṣaram brahma paramam, svabhāvo adhyātma ucyate, bhūta-bhāva-udbhava-karo, visargaḥ karma-saṁjñitaḥ. Bhagavan uvāca, akṣaram brahma paramam. Bhūta-bhāva-udbhava-karo, Bhagavan uvāca. akṣaram brahma paramam. bhūta-bhāva-udbhava-karo. Okay, ladies, is there anybody ladies? Ladies, śrī-bhagavān uvāca. svabhāvo adhyātma ucyate. bhūta-bhāvodbhava-karo. visargaḥ karma-saṁjñitaḥ. śrī-bhagavān uvāca. akṣaram brahma paramam. svabhāvo paramam adhyātma ucyate. visargaḥ karma-saṁjñitaḥ. śrī-bhagavān uvāca. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, akṣaram, indestructible, Brahman, paramam, transcendental, svabhāvaḥ, eternal nature, adhyātma, the self, ucyate, is called bhūta-bhāva-udbhava-karaḥ, producing the material bodies of the living entities. Visargaḥ, creation, karma, fruitive activities, saṁjñitaḥ, is called. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called adhyātma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities. Purport. Brahma is indestructible and eternally existing, and its constitution is not changed at any time. But beyond Brahman, there is paramam. Brahma refers to the living entity, and paramam refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The constitutional position of the living entity is different from the position it takes in the material world. In material consciousness, his nature is to try to be the Lord of matter, but in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, his position is to serve the Supreme. When the living entity is in material consciousness, he has to take on various bodies in the material world. That is called karma, or varied creation by the force of material consciousness. In Vedic literature, the living entities is called dhyātmam and Brahman, but is never called para-Brahman. The living entity, Dhyātma, takes different positions. Sometimes he merges into the dark material nature and identifies himself with matter, and sometimes he identifies himself with the superior spiritual nature. Therefore, he is called the Supreme Lord's marginal energy. According to his identification with material or spiritual nature, he receives a material or spiritual body. In material nature, he may take a body from any of the 8.4 million species of life, but in spiritual nature, he has only one body. In material nature, he is manifested sometimes as a man, demigod, animal, beast, bird, etc., according to his karma. To attain material heavenly planets and enjoy their facilities, he sometimes performs sacrifices, jaga. But when his merit is exhausted, he returns to earth again in the form of a man. This process is called karma. The Chandogya Upanishad describes the Vedic sacrificial process. On the sacrificial altar, 5 kinds of offerings are made into 5 kinds of fire. The 5 kinds of fire are conceived of as the heavenly planets, clouds, the earth, man and woman, and the 5 kinds of sacrificial offerings are faith, the enjoyer on the moon, rain, grains, and semen. In the process of sacrifice, the living entity makes specific sacrifices to attain specific heavenly planets, and consequently reaches them. When the merit of sacrifice is exhausted, the living entity descends to earth in the form of rain, then takes on the form of grains, and the grains are eaten by man and transformed into semen, which impregnates a woman, and thus the living entity once again attains the human form to perform sacrifice, and so repeat the same cycle. In this way, the living entity perpetually comes and goes on the material path. The Krishna conscious person, however, avoids such sacrifices. He takes directly to Krishna consciousness and thereby prepares himself to return to Godhead. Impersonal commentators in the Bhagavad Gita unreasonably assume the Brahman takes the form of jiva in the material world, and to substantiate this, they refer to chapter 15, verse 7 of the Gita. But in this verse, the Lord also speaks of the living entity as an eternal fragment of myself. The fragment of God, the living entity, may fall down into the material world, but the Supreme Lord Achyuta never falls down. Therefore, this assumption that the Supreme Brahman assumes the form of jiva is not acceptable. It is important to remember that in Vedic literature, Brahman, the living entity, is distinguished from paramam, the Supreme Lord. śrī-bhagavān uvāca akṣaram brahma paramam svabhāvo dhyātmam ucyate bhūta-bhāvodbhava-karo visargaḥ karma-saṁjñitaḥ. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and its eternal nature is called adhyātma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entity is called karma, or fruitive activities. So Arjuna had asked some questions. Verse 1 and 2 of this chapter are some questions which Arjuna asked, and the Lord is responding to those questions. So Arjuna, he had asked, Kinta Brahma, Kim Adhyātma, Kim Karma Puruṣottamam, Adbhutam Chakim Pruktam Adidaivam Kim Ucyate. So these are the 7. Arjuna want to know some certain things. You want to know what is Brahman? What is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? what is this material world, this material manifestation, and what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. So Arjun wanted to find out this. He want to know the Brahman, want to know the svabhāvo, adhyātmam. What is the self? Adhyātma means the self. So the Lord is responding here that yes. Therefore, the Lord say akṣaram, brahma. He said akṣaram. Akṣaram means indestructible. Akṣaram, brahma, paramam. That indestructible entity, it's called Brahman, which means the jiva. So, and it's called paramam, means transcendental. So, which means the jiva is eternal. The jiva does not die. The jiva does not take birth, nor does he die. The jiva is eternal. But when there is a contact with the material energy, when there's a contact with the material energy, there is the assumption that the jiva is taking birth and is dying. Lord Krishna says, "Najayate metiva kadachim nayabutva bhavita balibuya ajo nityam sashato yam purano na anyate ayamanesarere." Najayate means there's no birth. Na mriyate, no death. Aja nityam sashato yam purano. It's unborn. Aja means unborn. Nityam is eternal. Purana is the oldest person. But what is this birth and death that living entity is experiencing in the material world? The birth and death, this is due to delusion, because when the living entity is in the contact with the material energy, loses its position, so the living entity forgets its identity, forgets its being. Because identify himself with this material energy, with the material world. So therefore, sometimes the limited thinks he's a man, he's a woman, he's identify himself with so many different nationalities: black, white, orange, green, Indian, American. So the limited entities have to have this different identification. So there was one time when one of the India's freedom fighter, this I think it was the Chandra Bose, something like that, Bose from West Bengal. So he went to śrī-bhagavān to Gaudiya Math, because at that time there were so many young brahmacharis. So he went to Gaudiya Math to ask the living entities, even though it's a part of the Lord. For example, the jiva is called Brahman, another is Brahma. The Brahma is God himself. And the Brahma can never become Brahma. So there's a permanent difference between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. Because the living entity can never become Supreme, can never become the Lord. There's a permanent difference between that. Just like sometimes we have some, especially the Maya bodies, they will say that the Bhagavan has taken, like the Lord has taken has become the Brahman, who is the Lord, has taken the form, being overcome by Maya. So therefore, he has taken the form of a man. But when he realizes that he's no more that man, or he's no more a material being, then he realizes his supreme position as being God. So therefore, everyone is God, that we are God. We just don't know that we are God. So we just have to do proper sadhana, proper meditation. And then you can realize that, yes, now that you are God. So, therefore, the impersonally philosophers, they tell people that anybody can become God. Just have to know that. But it's illusion. God is always God. It's not that God is, just like when Krishna was here 5,000 years ago, right from the time of his appearance, is God. It's not that Krishna was meditating and then he became God. He is God right from the time of his appearance. Big demon Putana came, Krishna immediately killed her. So many demons were coming, Krishna was killing them, which is an act which is not possible for any living entity, which is not possible for anyone. Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill on his little finger for 7 days. He was just 7 years old and he lifted Govardhan Hill. Who could do that? No one can do that. No living entity can do that. But the Maya bodies, they want everyone to understand that they are God. They just forget that they are God. So therefore, they can become God. So this is completely nonsensical. So the jiva, that's why this mentioned in the commentary that there's a big difference between Brahman and paramam. Brahman is there, it's always Brahman, jiva, and it's mentioned here, there's what we call svabhāvo. Svabhāvo means the eternal nature. What is the eternal nature? So therefore, adhyātma, svabhāvo, adhyātma, ucyate. So the eternal nature of the jiva is that the jiva is eternal. That's always there. But in the contact with the material energy, that eternal nature is made to be upside down. The eternal nature of the jivas. So, on this mention, like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was writing in his book Dhyātmam, which means the jiva. What is the nature of jiva? What is the eternal nature? Jiva means the living entities. And what is their eternal nature? It mentioned here akṣaram. Akṣaram means something that is imperishable. It is something that comes, that is always part of the nature of the jiva, that part of nature. So it mentioned that when the jiva comes in contact with material energy, the jiva somehow temporarily assume a perverse nature. So that's what is perverse nature, and that's what is permanent nature. So perverse nature is when we identify ourselves with this material body, thinking that we are man, woman, this or that, this nationality, that nationality, I'm a this, I'm that. That is a perverse nature, and then we assume different materialistic activities, different karma. And our activities, it's called a visargaḥ, visargaḥ karma-saṁjñitaḥ. So, because we'll assume different activities, we perform different activities, and that becomes the basis of our perpetual, the future materialistic existence. That becomes the basis of that. So, in the material energy, the nature of the jiva is perverted. It's just like the water. What is the nature of the water? What is the nature of water? You have the nature, there's water here. What is the nature of the water? The nature of the water is liquidity. That is its permanent nature, liquidity. But sometimes, if you put the same water in the fridge, in the freezer, it becomes solid. It becomes solid. But that solidity of the water is not the permanent nature of the water. That's just the temporary nature. When the water becomes solid, so that's just the temporary nature of the water. So when you take the water out of the freezer and you put it down again, the solid again, it becomes melts and it becomes liquid again. So similarly also the jiva, why the material world assume different identity. But what is the jiva dharma? What is the nature of the jiva? What is the activity of what is the duty of the jiva? The duty of the jiva is to be Krishna Das, to be the servant of Krishna. And that servant of Krishna, it's only one identity, whereas in the material world, there are so many identities that the jiva, living entity, assumes so many different identities. Whereas in spiritual consciousness, there's only one identity, and this is called svabhāvo, the original nature of the living entity. So the original nature of the living entity is to be Krishna Das. Jivera Swarupa Krishna Nitya Das. That is the eternal nature of the living entities. When Srila Sanatana Goswami, when he approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so Sanatana Goswami approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we met the Lord in Prayag. That's Prayag. That's a Shrimad Ghat. So when Sanatana Goswami, he approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he said, many people, they give me so much praise. People give me so much praise that I'm a very learned person. Because Sanatana Goswami, he was the prime minister of that time, Nawad Hussain Shah, the emperor, the king of West Bengal. So Sanatana Goswami was the prime minister, and he was very learned. He was very learned. He knew so many languages, Persia, Sanskrit, many languages he knew. So it was, because Sanatana Goswami, he belonged to Saraswat Brahman. Saraswat Brahman was a very top Brahminical class in India. In India, you have many types of Brahmanas. Varadiya Brahmana, different Brahmanas, and the Saraswati Brahmana that is considered to be the topmost. Like probably sometime we talk about the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, who also happened to be Saraswat Brahman. So Sanatana Goswami was saying that everyone praised me that I'm very learned. I'm very intelligent. But he's saying, I'm such a person now, I want to know what kind of person, what kind of learned person am I? That I don't even know myself. I don't even know myself. I don't even know why I'm here in this material world. I don't even know why material energy is constantly tormenting me. And here I am trying to show myself that I'm a learned person. When I don't even have the answer to all these things. I don't know myself. So therefore, Sanata Goswami was submitted himself to Chaitanya Prabhu that, my dear Lord, please enlighten me. And then the Lord started instructing Sanata Goswami that, yes, what is your nature? So what is your swarup? Your original nature is to be Krishna Das, to be the servant of Krishna. Krishna Swarup, Krishna Swarup, Jivara Swarup, Krishna Nitya Das. That's your eternal nature, to be servant of Krishna. But in the material consciousness, you are thinking that you belong, you are the master. We think of yourself, but in the material consciousness, you are thinking you are the master. And thinking you are the master, so it so happens that you are not the only one who is thinking you is the master. Everyone in the material world thinking that they are the master of all they can survey. So therefore, there is competition. The competition is there because everyone is a master and everyone has to fight. Every master has to fight with other masters. And of course, it's all illusory anyway. So therefore, there's a constant, let's say, survival of the fittest, the survivor in the material world. Everyone struggling with the other person. Everyone struggling. But devotees of Krishna, they don't have such mentality. Devotees of Krishna, they never think themselves of being the master. They always think themselves only as a servant of the Lord, as a servant. And that's the only identity they have. That yes, I mean Krishna Nitya Das, I am the servant of Krishna. That's the only identity they have. So this, how the living entities, how creates so many karmas in the form of trying to exist in this material world. So as I mentioned in the purport, that the living entities, they have to perform so many sacrifices. And when they perform so many sacrifices, and the aim of the sacrifice is to go to the higher planets, where they can have bigger, they can go to heaven and have bigger pleasure. Now, when they go to the heaven, in heavenly planet, but they cannot stay there forever. They cannot stay there forever because after certain times, when the pious activities which you have accumulated, those pious activities the result of them will come to an end. So like after 10,000 years or whatever, 10,000 celestial years, after that the living entities again have to come down again to this earth. And how do they come down? They will come down in the form of rain. If they come down in the form of rain, the rain falls down and then it becomes grain. And when it becomes grain, then a man will eat the grain. When the man eats the grain, then that grain will turn to semen, and then the grain turns to semen, and the semen is passed on into a woman, and then there's impregnation, and then the person is born again. So in this way, constant, back and forth material world again, the materialistic existence, it goes on that way. It goes on the existence into material world. But a devotee of Krishna do not have to follow that. What is our sacrifice? Our sacrifice is simply bhakti to please the Lord, to please Krishna. Bhakti to please Krishna, that is the only sacrifice by which a devotee performs. No other, because a devotee do not look forward to go to the heavenly planet, to go to this planet or that planet. He simply wants to be a servant of Krishna. Now, however, if Krishna wants a devotee may, if according to the will of Krishna, the Lord may say, okay, maybe this devotee can take the position of Indra, or take the position of Brahma, or so if Krishna wants, which a devotee will only do what the Lord wants to him to do. Just like we have the description of a devotee called Gopal Kumar in the BG-8.3. So this devotee, he has his attachment to the Lord, to devotional service of the Lord. And this devotee, he was very addicted to searching for the form of the Lord. And this devotee, he will go to different places. He was, when he was in a city, the king of that city died, and he was made to be the king of the city. So, as a king of the city, what did he do? He just make sure that the whole kingdom, everyone is a devotee of the Lord. You know, and then notice that this same devotee, Gopal Kumar, then he became Indra, and then he became Brahma. So many, but even though he was in many positions, because this is what the Lord wants, but he never at one time loses his, forget his position as a devotee. He never at any time forgets his position as a devotee. Just the mentality that, yes, I'm a servant of the Lord, that mentality is always there. So one does not have to perpetuate their existence in the material world. So the whole purpose of this old chapter is about attaining the Supreme Lord. This is this chapter 8. And of course, Arjuna asked 7 questions, and the Lord is answering these questions systematically. That what is Brahman, what is svabhāvo, what is adhyātma, what is paramam. So the Lord is explaining this, is giving the answer to this question. And then, while in the material world, the Lord is also going to explain, the Lord will explain the process of becoming free from the material world. So the Lord will explain this. So this is actually a very nice chapter, the chapter 8. And in this chapter 8 will prepare us for the chapter 9, whereby we start hearing the confidential knowledge. And the middle chapter, of course, the middle 6 chapters, as we say, this middle 6 chapter of the Bhagavad Gita from chapter 7 to chapter 12, this is all about devotional service to Krishna. Because these chapters, whereby the Lord explains the living entity, he explains the material nature, the Lord explains himself, and the Lord explains how to come to him, which is the process of bhakti. So this middle 12 chapters, it's called it's supposed to be the confidential knowledge about attaining the Supreme Lord. So again, the Lord said, akṣaram brahma paramam svabhāvo ucyate bhūta-bhāvodbhava-karo visargaḥ karma-saṁjñitaḥ. So we have to understand what is our eternal, what's our nature, our svabhāvo, what's our eternal nature. We should not assume the wrong nature. Being in the material world is a wrong nature. We are not supposed to be here. But our real nature is we are Krishna Das. We are servant of Krishna. That's what we reach. And that will make us, give us the spiritual happiness, the spiritual bliss. So I'm going to stop here. If there's any question about this. So the last saying, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and its eternal nature is called adhyātmam, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entity is called karma or fruitive activities. Yes.
Thank you for your class. What is the dharma of the living entity? You said it's to serve Krishna, But when we said we should follow in the footsteps of the Vrajavasi or our guru or acharya, what are the different?
Yeah, our nature is to serve Krishna. In order to serve Krishna, we have to follow those devotees who are actually serving Krishna in a loving attitude. Not just serve Krishna, they love Krishna. And how do we love Krishna? We serve Krishna without any motivation. No motivation, which means Anya Bila Sutta Sunya Gyana Kamadhyana Britam. There is no any other motive except desire to please Krishna. And of course, the best devotees are the BG-8, the gopis of Vrindavan, Krishna's friend, Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda Maya. These are the topmost examples of devotees, and we are supposed to follow their footsteps. So which means we have to develop consciousness of trying to follow the BG-8 footsteps. What is their consciousness? The BG-8, their exception of them is that they only love Krishna without any motivation. They just love him. Krishna is their life. They have no other life. So, when we read Bhagavatam, especially 10th canto, we get to, we hear all these things in 10th canto. That yes, we have to follow their footsteps. How they serve Krishna, we have to do the same way. Follow them and serve Krishna similarly. Then we can attain the ultimate goal of life. Okay?
And how serve Srimati Radharani? Are there a schedule for her or some?
How?
She serves with love, but she is immotivated. But are there more knowledge about her schedule?
No, Srimati Radharani is Krishna's beloved, and is Krishna's pleasure potency. And of course, we Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we are the servants of Srimati Radharani, because when we please her, Krishna is pleased. And she, by her service, she can recommend us to Krishna for Krishna's service, for Krishna's enjoyment. So everything flows through Srimati Radharani. It's Krishna's pleasure potency. So which means if we please Srimati Radharani, then of course, not directly as Radharani, we actually please her servants, manjaris, sakis, like that. We render service to them. This is called, it's very, very kind of, confidential aspect, very esoteric aspect in terms of how do we please Srimati Radharani, how do we please the gopis, the manjaris, all these things. Very, very highly esoteric aspect. But in our stage, what we have to do is simply to chant our holy name, our mantra, and to chant with sincerity. Because by chanting without offenses, ultimately we will get all the results. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So when we say the word Hare, Hare means Srimati Radharani. So which means we don't approach Krishna directly. We go through Srimati Radharani, and that is Hare. And then of course Krishna, who is the supreme attractive. And then Ram signifies the supreme pleasure giver, the reservoir of our pleasure. So through the chanting, all the result is attained through the chanting. When we are chanting, we focus, we don't think of anything else except Krishna, Krishna's name, Krishna, his energy, Srimati Radharani. We don't think of anything else. And then we do that, then we will get the results. The result is our detachment from this material world and our attachment to Krishna. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So, we talk about pleasing Krishna. So my question is that, like, is it easy to please Krishna, and what will happen if we please them?
Actually, to please Krishna, we have to please his devotee. We cannot serve Krishna directly. We have to serve Krishna's devotees. That's why it's mentioned that we have to approach a guru, and a guru who is a pure devotee of Krishna, and we are meant to render service to him. If you render service to him, if he is pleased, then Krishna is pleased. Yasha prasadam, bhagavad prasado, yasha prasadana gati kutopi. That by his mercy we get Krishnas. If you don't, and if he's pleased, we get Krishna. If he's not pleased, we don't get Krishna. So, if the pure devotee of Krishna is pleased with us, we serve him, and we attain Krishna. Ultimately, because attaining Krishna is our nature, is our eternal nature, to become Krishna's eternal servant. Because we are servants of Krishna. We are just, because we are in this material world, we think that we are something else. But we have only one identity, that's all Krishna does. There's no other identity. Ekale Ishvara Krishna, Arasabhabhritya. Everyone is a servant of Krishna. But under the illusion, we think that we are somebody else. We think that we are emperor, we are this, we are that, we are this, we are that. But that's not the situation. When Krishna becomes pleased with us, we will become fully satisfied. Transcendental bliss. No more anxiety, no more unhappiness. We actually realize your spiritual nature, which is a reservoir of Ananda, the reservoir of bliss. It's called Ananda Mayo Vyasat. Ananda Mayo means pleasure, the actual bliss. It has nothing to do with the so-called temporary material happiness. No, it has nothing to do with that. You become fully satisfied, full Ananda, when you become Krishna conscious.
And is it easy to please him? Like, how much time it takes to please him?
As I said, we have to follow a devotee of Krishna. We have to serve a pure devotee of Krishna. And a pure devotee of Krishna, usually they're very kind. They will show us how to serve Krishna. By their instruction, we will get to know how to serve. And they're very, very patient. They are full of sublime qualities. So our focus should be approaching a pure devotee of Krishna, a Sudha Bhakta, and then approach such a person with a service attitude. That I want to serve you, I want to serve. Because this person knows Krishna. So therefore, he can show you who Krishna is. But that's only possible by your service to him. Service to him, and then make inquiry, make spiritual inquiries. So if we give you spiritual instruction, let you know about your nature, your spiritual nature, what is your identity, we'll let you know your real identity, and then we will engage you accordingly in the service of Krishna, accordingly.
So, so in short, we conclude that whatever our Guru tells us, and we do that, so that's how we are going to please Krishna, correct?
Yes. If you please him, Krishna will be pleased. If you please Krishna's pure devotee, Krishna become pleased.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, okay, thank you very much for asking question. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.